Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class, I've been going through a series, or created a series of video presentations based on the textbook that will be used for this class for the fall 2019 semester. As you can see on screen, the textbook is Pro ASP.NET MVC 5, an 8-press text written by Adam Freeman. I'm working my way through Chapter 23 of 27, and I'm down to the bottom of page 657. The author says, I can fine-tune the behavior of Ajax requests by setting values for the properties of the Ajax options object as I pass the data to the Ajax.BeginForm helper method. So that's what the author is going to be going through next. Now, the author talks about this, and I do want to mention this because the author talks about graceful degradation. All right? The other thing that you might hear along with this is kind of, I've heard like progressive enhancement and a few other things. But what do you do? In other words, do you assume that the person running your script, your program, has got the latest and greatest software? And if you do, that's what you plan for. And if, for the people who don't, you gracefully degrade over time, so you look at what they have and you degrade down. The other way of doing it is you assume that the person running your program has got the worst hardware, etc. possible, all right? And you basically program for that. But if they have better hardware than that, you progressively enhance that. And the only reason I bring that up is it's kind of what they're talking about here. All right. So they mention here with the way this is set up, but the author says the problem with this approach is that it doesn't work well if the user has disabled JavaScript. And it happens. In such cases, when the user submits the form, the browser simply discards the current HTML page and replaces it with a fragment returned. All right. The simplest way to address this problem is to use the Ajax options URL as shown here on the bottom of page 658, and basically add in here to our get people URL So we've got our Ajax options in here. View Vegas, get people, layout. Ajax options equals new Ajax options. Update target equals table body, comma. And then we are to add URL equals URL dot action get people data. Right? And as we peruse our way down here, now we've got in our using statement, we no longer need to get people data here. We just say Ajax ops. All right. So we've used the URL.ActionHelper method to create a URL that will automatically invoke the get people data action method for us. If JavaScript is enabled, then the unobtrusive Ajax library will take the target URL from the data minus Ajax minus URL attribute, which refers to the child action. On the other hand, if JavaScript is disabled, then the browser will use the regular form posting technique, which takes the target URL from the action attribute, which points back to the action method that will generate a complete HTML page. bottom of page 659. Providing the user with feedback while making an Ajax request. One drawback of Ajax is it isn't always obvious to the user that something is even happening. As mentioned here, that's because the request to the server is made in the background. But we can inform the user that a request is being performed by using the loading element and the loading element duration properties, as are shown on page 660. So what does that mean? All right. For lack of better words, and you probably already know this, but what we're talking about is you would want the ability, as an example, maybe you've seen this before. I remember for years, Microsoft, if you were downloading something or waiting for an action to finish, you'd get the little spinning timer or whatever you'd call that, the little spinning thing, and people would sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait forever. Okay? It's the same kind of an idea. Now, we want to add more. Into our getpeople.cs HTML file. So we're going to come back up here, comma. All right. And what are we doing? We're letting the user know that something is happening. We're trying to send out a message, not a subliminal message, but an actual message. All right, right up above our table, we're going to add this div, which says loading data ... And the idea behind that, and they're showing it, where is it? That while something is happening, you want to let the user know. All right? I used to always make the joke, and it's not a ha-ha, but I used to always make the joke that as far as I was concerned, the people in the world who were the most impatient people were people working with computers. But I've really changed it over time to where I think it's people who are learning to work with computers, not exactly people who have a lot of practice working with them. All right. As far as prompting, we can go and add a confirm message to the bottom of this. We changed the load duration time from 100 to 1000 and gave them a message that said, do you wish to request new data? Which means that when they run this, what's going to happen is they're going to get a dialog box that comes up and does this for them. All right, I'm going to stop right here, even though it's a little bit early. And I will pick it up with creating Ajax links, which is on the upper part of page 662, and I'll be back with that presentation shortly.